How's it going? It's Grant
Shelby.
with the Garden of Eder, and tonight we're going to be talking all about Galaxy Pintos, the different subspecies varieties, not subspecies, but different subvarieties of the Galaxy Pintos themselves, kind of care requirements, what goes into making your own. Should you even try to make your own? What if you want to crossbreed them? What's going to happen? I'm basically going to do a full dive into the genetics of the Galaxy Pinto tonight. First hour is going to be all about the Galaxy Pinto. So if anybody has any questions related to that, I'd be happy to answer those. And in the second hour, we'll go into general discussion and little updates about the house and stuff like that. So to dive into it, first off, you got to learn how to keep these Galaxy Pintos. They are going to be a Caridina species. They are hybridized between the Tiger and Bee varieties, but there is a need for the lower pH. So you have to set up your aquariums just like a crystal tank. You're going to need to kill the bubbles because we're not used to that yet. So let me give that one little second there. You gotta talk in my absence, Shelby.
No,
Straight,
I like it to be really awkward and quiet. I don't know what to say.
And it took me a second to find it. So, all right, we're back. Slight technical difficulty, but we're going to dive into the husbandry real quick. So, them being a Caridina species, they need the low pH. So, the best way and the only realistic way to do this easily and efficiently is to use RO water with GH only minerals and aqua soil. You want to use GH only minerals because any KH in the water will want to neutralize the pH or even raise it a little bit. So having that zero KH and only GH minerals is a must if you want the aqua soil to do its job. The job of the aqua soil is to buffer the pH down so that way it's low enough that the babies can molt, survive, live, thrive, and just simply without those three essential things, it's just really hard to breed crystal shrimp, Galaxy Pintos, anything like that in general. There are other means with acids and using the peat moss and stuff like that, but it creates a lot of mess. It's not very stable, consistent. You have to swap out the tanks a lot. So when it comes to longevity of having your colony going, the really best method is the RO water, GH only minerals, and the aqua soil. We recommend the Brightwell aqua soil substrates. Rocking my Garcia Aquatics t-shirt tonight. Needed a little bit of energy, a little bit of pep in my step, and what better than feeling a little bit of Garcia's vibe tonight. So we just basically run of the mill, keep our Caridina in all the same parameters at 150 TDS, around 6 to 5 GH, 0 KH, and then the as low as possible pH as we can go. Anything less than 5, anything less than 6, we don't really test for. And even if the pH was 5, I wouldn't be worried about that for the Caridina crystal shrimp or anything like that. They'd be fine in 5. And then anything lower than 5 is just like unheard of. So you're not really going to have to worry about that at all. So as long as you got a good substrate that's doing its job, you're going to get a low pH. I say good substrates because there are a lot of substrates out there that just don't hold up to par. They don't last very long. There's like the bee sand. The Aqua Vitro is one that I hear doesn't last very long, but we're running it for over a year now and it's still holding. But will it last 5 years? That's the same with Fluval, where we're using both of their new substrates. One of them for a little over a year. The other one, not even a year yet. So whether or not these substrates will last the 3 to 5 years like our Brightwell substrate does, I can't really give those a full recommendation. So that's why I can say Brightwell, we've tested it, tried it, and I know it works, and it's still working after 4.5 years of use. So for that reason, even if it's a little bit more money than some of the other substrates, I go with that one. But I think if you do some price comparison and do the whole liters to pounds conversion, you'll find that the Brightwell substrates are fairly priced out. Of course, you can find really expensive stores with it. Amazon has some very fluctuating prices. Sometimes you'll find it on sale, like a 23-pound bag for $50 to $80. Then sometimes you see it available for 110. So there are substrates, other choices like UNS, and Tropica. There are a few other good options out there that you can go with in case you can't get your hands on Brightwell, or you found those substrates out there a little bit cheaper. Um, but when it comes to care, the water change schedule, and everything like that, it's exactly the same from our crystal tanks to our Galaxy Pintos. And I would honestly say we've had more success breeding out and keeping and lining our Galaxy Pintos than in just normal plain crystal shrimp. I find that the crystal shrimp are pure bees. They're a little bit more sensitive and require a little bit more, just like the Taiwan bees, consistent, stable parameters. Where the Galaxy Pintos in general, are a hybrid between the bees and tiger shrimp. So I do think the tiger shrimp genetics are passed down just a little bit, and that allows them to be a little bit more hardy and just take a little bit more fluctuation in that pH. And because of that, I've barely had any of the Galaxy tanks like go stagnant or stale in their breeding. For the most parts, once we get those tanks going, they just take off. Where our crystal shrimp really do slow down, depending on how much we cull and bring down the numbers and stuff like that. Time of the year, sometimes they'll slow down in the winter, but majority of the tanks, they don't have like a main season. They'll just go slow for whatever reason in that individual tank. Where the Galaxy Pintos, like once they get going, they're just like rabbits. They don't stop. They don't really have a season. So I do think the tiger genetics are passed down. And as long as you set up the Caridina tanks the right way, you get the water chemistry right. I do think Caridina shrimp are a lot easier to work with than the Neo Caridina. Just because Neos, they'll throw a lot more culls. They're not really a lot of fun to crossbreed and work with genetics, but by all means, do try and cross your Neo Caridina. Have that curiosity for yourself and find out if your Neos are going to make wilds or not, because it is, like playing the lottery, little tiny chances that you can make something new and create a whole different line. So that is the way to do it. Just with Caridina shrimp, you have a lot more to work with, a lot more variety before you revert back to that wild type shrimp. In Caridina, that'll never happen. Where the Neos, they just want to go back to their ugly wild type form. So that's why I do like the crystal shrimp more than Neos. Once you get the water chemistry right, you got something for me? No. All right. So if you want to create your own Galaxy Pintos, we did this by crossing Tangerine Tigers with a Shadow Panda, and then 4 generations in, we crossed back with a Missouri Taiwan Bee. We did that to get the double pigment. I was getting a few here and there, but I really wanted more of the double, layers of pigment that looked like a Taiwan Bee rather than a crystal or a Tai Bee. And the fastest way to do that is to cross back in the Taiwan Bees. So after that, 4 more generations, and I got what I would consider to be a Pinto. Not quite Galaxy quality or grade, but it was doable in the next 2 generations, where I said, or I consider in 10 generations, we made our own Galaxy Pintos from scratch. And I do find that to be scratch, because I'm not going to go into the wild and find the wild type crystals and work on those to make my own crystals. And the Taiwan bees are an unknown cross. They're not a shrimp you can go out into the wild and get. And whether or not they're a cross or a mutation or anything like that, nobody really knows. And until somebody is rich enough and passionate enough about the shrimp to do the DNA testing, or DNA testing just becomes so cheap that we can just send a bunch of shrimp in and get it done. But right now it's like $1,000 per test. If not more. I'm not that's just like a normal DNA test to get stuff sequenced. I do know for like birds and turtles, you can like DNA sex the actual individuals, but to sequence their DNA to pick out all the little individual pieces of code and stuff like that, that can get quite expensive. So and I don't know what that all entitles, but hopefully one day we can get some proof behind some of these lines. But other than that, it's just like what we believe, theory, and the theory that makes the most sense. And usually the theory that makes the most sense usually ends up becoming fact, and that's the mutation. So I'm not saying it is fact, but that's the most likely possibility. So doing that took 10 generations. Maybe if I had crossed the Missouri back after F1 or F2, I could have done it a little bit sooner. But realistically, I don't know if the striping and the dots and everything like that would have been there at the same time. So 10 generations, it took us like 6 years to do all of that hard work, selective breeding, all the water changes and feeding and all of that. It took a lot of culling. Strict selective breeding to where I only let the best of the best breed out the next generation and got rid of all the ugly ones. So you need tanks for all of that and everything along the lines, but you've got to have the patience above everything else. Mimic ass, do the orange-eyed yellow King Kongs carry the Serrata gene? Absolutely. The yellow King Kong is derived from the tangerine tiger, which is the Serrata gene. So Serratas would consist of tangerine tigers, aurora tigers, and then most likely the cheetahs. I say most likely because, again, I haven't done the DNA testing. I like to be as transparent with everybody as I possibly can. But with not selective breeding, but with crossbreeding and just seeing the different patterns just off of F1 and F2, it's very, very similar to the tangerine tigers. So the backline and everything else, the fact that they can cross with the other Caridina shrimp, more than likely the cheetahs are a Caridina Serrata. So then, of course, there's like 15 different lines of hybrids that stem from the Serrata gene themselves. A lot of those we're going to cover tonight. And the one thing that makes a Galaxy Pinto versus a German Pinto, and the German Pintos are the zebras, the belly, and the spothead Pintos, is the Serrata gene. With the German Pintos, it's Caridina Maria, which is the orange-eyed blue tigers, super tigers, red tigers, normal tigers. And they don't simply have any backline. They have some dots, but very few and far between. That's why on a spothead Pinto, you get about 9 bigger spots. And then on the Galaxy Pinto, a lot of people don't even consider it a good Galaxy Pinto until it has 9 or more spots because of the German possibilities. You got anything else for me? All right. So with all that work, it really doesn't make a lot of sense for some people to go through it and make your own line. I don't know anyone besides myself who has done it. I know a few people were working on it. I don't know if they stuck to it and had any success. It just takes so long, and sadly, there's not a lot of breeders who stay in the hobby for so long. There's a lot of people who get real serious about it for like 4 to 5 years, like Daryl, DT Aquariums, and Steve Ramirez, who I both have purchased both of their shrimp rooms. They were both in the works of making very similar shrimp, but never really actually followed through. One of the big reasons is when the Galaxy Pintos first hit the States, it made a lot of sense to want to try and create your own because they were over $100 each. Some of the nicer ones were, $3,500 or $7,000 for a pair. And with
that amount of money, you've got to go and just try and make them yourself. But the problem is when there's a shrimp that comes into the United States that's $100, it might be brand new and it only is brought in by a certain individual or company that imports. Well, they're able to basically charge top dollar. And then what happens is some of the other importers will see that, oh, these shrimp are taking off. They're really popular. They find a source for those exact shrimp themselves. And then when everybody does the second import, what happens is you end up with everybody trying to cut each other's prices. So $100 shrimp will go to $75 to $50 in like a week, just because all those people got their imports at the same time and they're now trying to outcompete each other's prices. I don't think there's like any unknown about the hobby where if you import something, you're paying, a fifth or less of the price of the actual shrimp that's being sold. And a lot of reason why is because there's death in the process, whether it's in shipping or in the tanks in quarantine or throughout any of the process. So that price is, brought down and then added on through the losses. And that's where you get the retail price of some of these things, where the other end is there's also going to be people out there who are purchasing the very first import and has successive breeding. And then what ends up happening is they're also now part of the competition. So did you add something or you just handed it? Okay, I'm like, I don't see anything on here. So when you get homebred shrimp, they become more desirable. There isn't the stress of shipping and stuff like that. So the demand for those shrimp become even higher, and the price is then lowered by the importers even more because now they're still trying to find that sale, and a lower price is definitely more appealing to somebody than a good homebred breeding opportunity. When they're only just keeping them in a tank for looks, or they don't even know about the benefits of buying homebred, locally grown shrimp that don't go through all the process and hassles of shipping. So what happens is basically $100 shrimp you can now get for $10. Or in the Yellow King Kong instance, you can now get those for $3 or $4 a piece, where they were originally $100 each individual shrimp in the United States. Now, some of the Galaxy Pintos are still holding a higher price tag, over $100 still to this day. But there's a lot that goes into those individual shrimp. And just the basic low-grade Galaxy Pintos are what were $100, like 6-7 years ago. So you don't necessarily need to breed out and crossbreed and try and make your own, because you can actually go out and, like, some of Shelby's medium grade Galaxy Pintos are only like $35 or $25, depending on whether you get normal or fishbone. I'll talk about that a little bit later also. But when you're buying shrimp from us, you're getting on average 1 centimeter unsexed juvenile shrimp. With Galaxy Pintos, with pretty much all shrimp that have any spotting to them of Caridina, as they grow, as they mature, you'll actually find more and more dots. So if you purchase, like, say, a medium grade Galaxy Pinto and you're getting a juvenile, there's a good possibility that shrimp could turn into a high grade Galaxy Pinto, or even a snowflake or a stardust or a snow. Oh, there's a lot of snow going on there. But basically, the more dots on these shrimp, the more valuable they become. That's the same with Fancy Tigers. It's the same with all Galaxy Pintos. Then it's placement of the dots that can raise the shrimp's price, the actual pattern of the dots, the size of the dots. It all plays into one's personal opinion and desires. And because of that, the shrimp are more valuable in different areas of the world and stuff like that. So you can go ahead.
So Mimic Nature said, is it a good idea to keep a clean Galaxy Pinto line clean of the Serrata gene when you're messing with crosses?
Clean of the Serrata gene. they all have the Serrata gene. So I don't exactly get what you're trying to ask there. Um, with German Pintos, it is definitely essential to keep them clean of the Serrata gene, or else you make Galaxy Pintos, not the other way around.
And then Ruben said boas are basically a pinto, right?
So the term Pinto is a. All right, so hold on. I'm jumping the gun here. Basically, what defines a Pinto shrimp is a Tai bee that has dots on the head. So if you're buying a zebra Pinto or a German spot belly Pinto, if they don't have dots on the head, technically those aren't Pintos. So all you're really getting at on Pinto is a spotted Tai bee. Now, you have a ton of different spotted Tai bees, and basically they're all Galaxy Pintos or Galaxy Tigers. I don't like the name Galaxy Tiger because it's another name for a wild type shrimp that's already named Galaxy Tiger. So I like to use Nanashi, but it's the same as Nancy. They're all the same. No, Nancy, not Nancy. I'm sorry. They're all the exact same shrimp, just depending on where you live. They all name them different names, basically. So,
And Craig asked, they have galaxies in tap water at Pet Barn. Would it be a risk buying them?
so it depends on like the price. They're almost certainly going to be like imported, right? If they're kept in tap water and at a pet store, but like, can you import those from Australia or in Australia? So I don't know. However, there's a good chance if they're younger that the risk is a lot lower than if they're higher. There's always risk, but if they weren't full size, I'd probably try and get them. If it's your only means of getting Galaxy Pintos because of where you live, I would do it. I would take the risk. I would avoid buying full size ones though, if possible.
We have one more question. Brandon said, would full purple metallics not be pinto then? Is the metallic gene part of the pinto lines?
So the metallic gene is part of the same genetics as the Galaxy Pintos, but you could definitely separate them. So from the very beginning of our Serrata genes, we took some with spots, some with just the straight back lines, and we went several different directions on those. But even in our green, which is the same cross that I used to make our Tai bees, which is Tangerine Tiger and Shadow Panda, but then later on I ended up crossing in some Green Tiger, but it really, you didn't need it. The genetics are all just in there. I just added something that had more green hue to it than normal. And we get like the back lines with solid purple. And then there's other purples out there that don't have the back lines and stuff like that. But I think that the purple itself just comes from hybridized Taiwan bees. I'm almost convinced that if you have an old enough Taiwan bee, that it will show some purple coloration to it as well. They're going to have pretty much the same genetics, but you could have purple metallics that don't throw Galaxy Pintos and vice versa. I do think that like all Galaxy Pintos though have the genetics and possibility of throwing a purple. It's just like whether or not you've bred enough shrimp to see it or gotten them old enough. Because like purple could be 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 5,000 shrimp. So whether or not you stuck with it that long to get it, that's why like purples, they're out there. You can get them now for like $35 to $55 a piece. It's probably better just buy a colony of purples if you want purples than trying to breed out 1,000+ Galaxy Pintos.
I just feel like Caridina, you get a faster result of purple compared to Neos, because Neos usually turn wild, where Caridina don't really have that, where they'll always have a double pigmentation. So you get that chance of slightly getting a purple, just like we've had reds that had purple genes come out of them. So
I think Caridina is the only way right now for stable purple until somebody like really selective breeds for purple shrimp. Everybody that's like, oh, I found a purple in my Skittles tank, the chances of them turning into a purple Neocaridina line are like less than 1%. I'll be honest, because I've seen it like 1,000 times. Or it's just like those early morning Bloody Marys that look purple. Those will get you. All right, so basically, you can buy the Galaxy Pintos, and it's a lot less work than making your own. There is a lot of pride and honor when you breed out your own lines, and it does feel good inside when you're able to do it, and it's a learning curve, right? You get to see all the different varieties and phenotypes that pop out, and also when working from the very beginning, you can see something maybe a little bit differently than that's out there and take that down a different road. So I don't want to deter anyone away from trying to breed out your own Galaxy Pintos, but from the average person, probably makes more sense just to buy them. Now, let's say you have your own Galaxy Pintos and you'd like to maybe get them a higher grade or get more blue into them and stuff like that. For me, it's selective breeding. We don't ever really add any new blood. A lot of our lines of shrimp have just been breeding for ages, and I know that there are a few breeders out there who like to add in new blood into their lines when things get slowed down a little bit. I don't know if we have just a bunch of Alabama shrimp or what, but they're perfectly fine, and they keep on going, and we haven't had to add any new shrimp into the genetics. So what we prefer to do is selective breeding. Shelby's line of Galaxy Pintos just recently have gone through the slaughterhouse of selective breeding. Not like slaughtered, like they got slaughtered, but like we definitely went through and hacked out anybody that was not up to par. Shelby's not happy about it. You can see her face just was like, yeah, they're gone. I got low amounts of shrimp in my tanks, but the end result, in 2-3 years, the amount of dots, spottings, and stuff like that on her shrimp are going to be ridiculous. So that's what it takes, though. Then I always tell people, breed for pattern first and then go for color. It is so much harder to add dots and stripes rather than just to breed out for a stronger red or a brighter white or something like that. The brightest white takes a lot of time. I'm not going to lie. It's not easy to do to get a solid, opaque, white shrimp. But if you take your time after you already got the pattern, you'll have a lot more success. Because if you got the white and then went for the pattern, you could ruin the white. So I much rather go for as many dots and stuff like that, and then try to selective breed for the blue or the metallic or the purple after I already had what I found to be the perfect Galaxy Pinto.
Quick question, real quick. Bob said, will Caridina prey on Neocaridina babies? Have some in a tank together, then the Caridina seem to be multiplying faster.
So I don't think that it's necessarily that they prey on the babies, but it seems like whenever you put one type of shrimp in with another type, it doesn't matter if it's Neocaridina, Caridina, Paracaridina. One shrimp just tends to dominate the other one, or they're eating more of the food, or they're hogging up all the good hiding spots. I've had it reverse where the Neocaridinas are out competing the Caridina. And then we've also seen it with Sulawesi and stuff like that. There are plenty of tanks and plenty of ecosystems that you're able to set up where the two of them will breed perfectly just fine. But I always think one of them is definitely going to outbreed the other. And if you let that get too out of hand, you can have one outpopulate the other one entirely. So it's definitely a possibility. I don't think they're eating the babies directly. I just think they're eating more of the food source. The females aren't getting enough nutrition, and maybe they're not holding on to their eggs for the full cycle because they're getting stressed and they drop them or eat them for food source. So I'm not sure about the size of the tank, but generally this is why we went from having 55 different varieties of shrimp and only having like 45 tanks to having 150 aquariums and only having like 55 varieties, because we were like, all right, we got to split these up. we got to have multiple tanks in order to start making orders and not running out of shrimp and stuff like that. So I love keeping a bunch of shrimp in together and, big ecosystem, but it's just not feasible for everyone.
Yeah. Also, if you are going to keep two different of the Caridina and Neocaridina, I would say to have like a food source like soy ahoy that doesn't like pollute the water, just having a little bit more of that and more protection in the tank so they can kind of make their own little areas and feel a little bit more comfortable. And then you'll have pretty even breeding. You just have to make sure that the only way they would ever like attack each other is not enough food. And that happens in a tank with just one species. It can happen. So just making sure that they're well fed and lots of protection.
And they're not going to segregate. Like, they're not going to put one kind of shrimp in this corner and one kind in there. So you can't really do like two different rock piles that are going to work out. You need to really just make more nooks and crannies throughout the entire aquarium to make everybody happy and feel more comfortable.
One more question says, where does the metallic gene come from and what is the metallic gene? What makes a shrimp metallic?
All right, so the metallic gene is coming up. I will dive more into that. I need to go over the other varieties in order for the metallic to kind of make sense because truthfully, I can't tell you exactly what it comes from. I can just kind of tell you through selective breeding and knowing the genetics and stuff like that, what's going to happen through the selective breeding and stuff like that. So, all right. That's basically what we're on. So having a low grade Galaxy Pinto, technically the genetics are going to be in there. You don't want to call it a spot head Pinto or a zebra Pinto or something like that. So you've got to go through and call them Galaxy Pintos, even if they don't have all the 9 dots, right? So low grade is going to have less than like 3 dots on each side of the face. Medium grade is going to have, almost 9 spots total. So maybe 3 to 4 or 5 on each side, or not 5 on each side. That'd be too many. But once it gets 9 spots, that's when you can start to get your high grade Galaxy Pintos. There are a lot of people out there that don't consider them even Galaxy Pinto at all until it gets the 9 spots. But after 9 spots, even if you have 100 spots, doesn't mean it's high grade. There's a lot of things that need to go into play with color, shell quality, and stuff like that. One of the things that everybody really likes about the Pintos and the hybrids is you get the spider legs. So you get the white and black or white and red layering on the legs themselves. And that's going to add on to the grade. If you don't have spider legs, a lot of people won't consider your shrimp to be high grade. You got an example? Is that what you're bringing up? All right. So this is probably one of the highest grade Galaxy Pintos in the house. I think these got second or first place at the international contest in North Carolina. It is obviously more spotting than your normal Galaxy Pinto. The spots have merged together into what we call the boa. The boa is where the dots on the face kind of resemble the same pattern as a boa constrictor of a snake. And you can still count on the face because if this is just one half of the shrimp, there's definitely more than 5 dots there. You have the spider leggings, even though the white is very kind of faint. What did I say?
Spider leggings.
Oh. All right. Well, you have the spider legs. And even though the white isn't really vibrant and bright, you can still see it there. Of course, if you wanted to improve on the quality of this shrimp, the legs is definitely where you would want to work on. I'm not a big fan of the cape, where the back line and the zebra stripes kind of don't mesh properly. So I could take this shrimp, in my opinion, to a higher grade where others do kind of like the cape. I just think the cape is like an exhausted fish bone that they didn't take the time and process to really refine and to make the nice little bones that look like a dead fish. But after the high grade, the more dots, the boa, the spider legs, and stuff like that, there is another variety beyond that. It's called the python, kind of sticking with the snake theme there, and that would be where the dots on the body actually line up and get big, just like on the face, and it can continue to have the back line or the fishbone and stuff like that. They're very rare, very uncommon. I've only seen a picture of one once, and besides that, they really haven't like been a thing. I'm also not like really deep into the Asian shrimp scene, so I'm not to say there's not a lot of them going around. I'm just not seeing them personally. Um, but then through selective breeding of color is where you're going to start and get all of the other varieties. Basically, the Serrata and the Taiwan B gene is all you need to make the metallics, the purples, the blues, the red on red python. Everything is already included in the genetics. From here on out, everything else is just selective breed. If you want snowflake, well, then you breed and select the ones that have the best dots that are robust and big that actually resemble a snowflake pattern. If you want the stardust, which I'm not a fan of calling shrimp another name that other shrimp already have, but I didn't set the standards and the names, and there's just so many people already using this. There's like a chart, not a chart, but a picture list of shrimp, that basically a catalog of what this breeder has, and in it they also call theirs stardust. So it's basically what I thought was a snowflake, but with smaller dots that don't resemble the snowflakes pattern to them. So from there, talking to Benny Tay. With crossbreeding, I guess back with Fancy Tigers, they were able to remove the back line. I think with just selective breeding Shelby's Galaxy Pintos that she already has, she could remove the back line. But whether or not it would be like a recessive gene or a dominant gene that would like reappear later on, what's gross?
Probably. Remove the back line. It's my favorite part of my Pintos.
But you have a lot of nice Galaxy Pintos that don't have the back line.
Yeah.
So I'd say I could select the breed, but is his mutation where the backline never reappears even after breeding thousands of shrimp? Where with Shelby's, I'm pretty sure even if we selected bred them for like 4 or 5 generations, 1 out of 100 would still throw that backline. Very similar to my Tybes that I was just trying relentlessly to remove the backline. But these days, people are praising the backline. I learned this year that that's what a skunk has been the whole time. I have been in the hobby for almost 10 years next month, and I just this year learned what a skunk is. If you're having troubles and struggles with the genetics and names of all the different varieties of shrimp, just feel happy that I learned what a skunk was this year. Also, be happy there's people judging the contest in Germany right now that probably can't name all of the shrimp in the contest.
Can't name more than half.
Yeah, there's too many names. We have over 140, and that's why we're better than most at knowing the genetics and what goes into them, because we have them. I can see the babies and the phenotypes that pop out.
I would say the backline is one of the hardest things you would ever be able to remove, because I mean, when you think of it, even Aurora tigers, which are more of a wild shrimp, even get the backline. So like,
well, that's where the backline comes from.
Right. So but like almost every shrimp besides tangerine tigers. So unless you were to,
the best example is the yellow Neocaridina. And when I was first in the hobby, we had yellows that didn't have backlines. Now, I don't know a single person out there, period, that have yellows that don't have backlines in the colony. So it's hard if it's possible. So if that's something that they mutated, I'm also not an extreme expert on genetics. I never went to school for it. If you told my science teacher that I was the leading genetics expert for freshwater shrimp in the United States, they would both laugh and say, "Not the same Grant that was sleeping in my class." So I got. I don't know. If anybody out there is an expert on genetics and would like to explain mutations and how exactly they work with shrimp, I more felt like a mutation would have been like a whole different pattern, color, style to the shrimp, or like a second head. That's what I think about when mutations, like one eye, Futurama, and then with the shrimp, it's possible just to mutate something to remove a pattern. I didn't know that was possible, but Benny Tay probably knows more than I do when it comes to those genetics. So I'll take his word on it.
Ruben,
And that's how you make the snowfall Galaxy Pinto. That is the genetics within this Sam Scales print, which is Benny Tay's. So that's why I brought that up. What about Shrimp Him?
Ruben asked, "Do you have any extreme Red King Kongs available?"
Here's the thing about Red King Kongs. They don't breed very true extremes. When you breed out the extremes, two extremes make like 90% non-extremes and like 10% extremes. So I pretty much keep all of the extremes for myself just because we get so many pandas, one stripe and two stripe King Kongs that it's very, very little extremes. So I'm sorry. No, I don't have any of those available. You're really only going to find those from the importers, from people who breed out like thousands of them, and then they're okay with just letting them all go. Because they want the money. I want the actual looks in my tanks. All right. Oh,
Johnny
back
asked,
to Johnny.
"Grant, watching Mark's Shrimp channel, I noticed they run an underwater gravel filter. Is it necessary, or what's the difference from all of us using a sponge filter?"
I've never used an under gravel filter. I've seen a lot of people with them. It's just one of those things where it seems like more work, more money, more hassle than a simple little hang on the side sponge filter, suction cup to the side of your tank and run with it. I'm not having to worry about my roots clogging up the under gravel filter. And I've also seen a lot of instances where they can exhaust the substrate, take up all the nutrients out of the water, so the plants don't grow very well at all, like the moss, even though it doesn't have roots. And then on top of that, it can turn your substrate into mud a lot faster. I've seen like the little under gravel filter containers. Those things are cool, but like again, those are like way more money than a little tiny sponge filter that works really, really well, and it just haven't had a point. I would love to like one day set up like the Ferrari of all shrimp breeding tanks and put an under gravel filter that was powered by a CJ pump or something like that. But I don't have like the space to like just put a showcase tank and like run with it and experiment it, and then on like the back side of it just have like some really like the tank I picked up down the road from the neighbors and some sponge filter or filter that one of our club members made, and just stuff polyfill in it and then set them up side by side. And I think the cheap one would just compete just as well as the really fancy tank that I set up. I think it's more about the water changes and the food you're feeding the shrimp more than the filter itself.
Just don't think I would ever use one in a Caridina tank, and the possibilities that you disturb the substrate enough to cause a bacteria and cause issues with your shrimp, where like maybe a Neo, but like realistically, why would you even bother? Like, why? It just seems like a mess.
Yeah.
Like, if anything happens with the filter, you would have to disturb the substrate to bring it up, unless you do. The boxes are cool. Like, doesn't Ruben have some of the boxes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
those were cool. Didn't seem like it was going to disturb the tank if you had something go wrong. But if you were to do a traditional under gravel filter, you could have issues arise. And I mean, this happens with fish too. You could stir up things in the substrate that aren't just, not good.
See, I like Mark, but Mark tends to do the things that are going to get him more views and more clicks, and it's more gimmicky than it is actually like going to benefit and breed out more shrimp. Mark doesn't sell shrimp, so I don't take a lot of tips from Mark. All right. So back to the shrimp keeping, breeding. I talked about the selective breeding and trying to get the blues, the metallics, and the different colors onto the shrimp. Well, could you just, crossbreed? And let's say you're trying to get a Galaxy Pinto that's almost all white and black, and you want that blue coloration. Well, I'm telling you, give it some age, raise that GH up just a little bit, and you'll find that almost all of them have blue coloration to them. It's almost harder these days to find a solid black and white panda shrimp than it is to find a really low grade shadow panda or shadow pandas at all, because once you get that blue coloration in the genetics, it's really hard to get that pure white coloration. That's why the crystal shrimps, they breed out that white, and they really, the higher the white quality, the higher the grade of the shrimp. It's really hard to do that with boas because it's got the tiger genes in it, and that blue color just wants to thrive. So what they do is they select the breed for that blue color, so that way it's so intense. And then what happens is the blue becomes so intense, and then there's layers overlapping one another. So what they got to do is get that white removed to where it's like two blues that are overlapping one another, and that's where you get the metallic blue coloration to it. So it really is just selective breeding the blue, and then the metallic will come behind it. The purple really is a different story, but you'll start to notice like small little bits and pieces of the purple throughout the shrimp, and then you could selective breed those to where you get the full purple metallics that you see out on the market today. I don't know if it's still our Facebook banner photo, but like we were like one of 3 people in the United States that had purple shrimp. One of the people imported them. Then me and Andrew Wayne actually, like in the same week, discovered that we had purple shrimp. And then like 2-3 months after that, I was finding purple shrimp all over the house in different genetic tanks, or not like same genetics, but different lines of tanks that had no same shrimp from one other person or another. So definitely different lines to split off. But like say you're trying to work on and get more of the blue, do not keep your steels, your red steels or your blue steels in the tank. Get rid of those. The steels are dominant. So if you keep your blue steels in there to try and get more blue coloration to the actual pintos themselves, yes, it might actually happen, but instead of getting like a 75 or 90% of babies come out being Galaxy Pintos, you end up getting like 50 to 90% of them will come out as blue steels. So it's really counterproductive on trying to get more blue Galaxy Pintos. So what I actually would do is sit and selective breed for the pattern first. Once you have the pattern done, then you can really tone in on that blue. And like I mentioned, once you got so much blue, the metallic is going to come out and stuff like that. So you don't want to crossbreed to get more dots with any of thing like a crystal or a fancy tiger, any of the tibies, because what's going to happen when you cross one of the single pigment shrimps is you're going to take away the double pigment from that too. So there really isn't a lot of shrimp that I would recommend with crossing with the Galaxy Pintos. The only one that I do recommend is having something with orange eyes, trying to get those orange eye genetics into the Galaxy Pinto genetics, and having something along the lines of an orange-eyed boa or something like that. It's possible, but again, it's probably going to take 10 years of work and a lot of hard selective breeding and dedication in order to get your goal. You let one ugly shrimp breed in the corner just because you came attached to it, you gave him a name, he's part of the family now. Well, he's making a bunch of ugly relatives further on in the generations. I gotta mix it up. It's getting boring. It's the genetics talk. I can't believe there's 90 of you sitting here listening to me talk about a Galaxy Pinto, and when half of you probably only have neocardinas, and then 7% of you only have fish, no shrimp at all. So I'm
Mimic
right.
Nature said, does white to off-white matter when it comes to Pintos/boas like it does with crystals?
Yes, it matters to me. And one of the this is a perfect question to lead into the next segment. So there is the orange base boas, and when those were first hitting the scene, there was a lot of good looking high grade orange based boas out there. And sadly, what happens is overseas will show some beautiful pictures. And then what happens is there's people that are like, I have something close to that. It almost looks like that. So I'm going to sell that as that just lower grade, right? And yeah, the really low grade orange based boas that were hitting the scene were just low grade white. Not really much like impressiveness or anything like that. I've got those in my tanks too. Why are you selling them for $100 more than what they're worth? There was a lot of people that bit on it thinking that they could selective breed the orange out of them. And it is possible, but again, it takes many, many years of hard work, dedication. You could get a really good one by chance, with a generation or two. But the sad part is a lot of those shrimp were just really low grade white boas that were sold off as orange. Now, maybe somebody actually got legit culls from somebody's orange based boas. But I'm telling you, like 90% of the people that were buying the orange base was just low grade Galaxy Pintos. Besides the orange, there is the pink ones that are coming out. Those are gorgeous. I don't know how you would like get a low grade that looks like pink. So the pink should be pretty legit, but I haven't seen them in person. How much saturation is being cranked up? Whenever you see like a really nice photo of a shrimp or a fish or anything like that online, all of them are almost always photoshopped. Now, are they photoshopped to where it made a shrimp with an elephant face or ears or something like that? No, but they are photoshopped to where they, raise the saturation and they raise the slight colorations and highlight certain things and stuff like that to make the picture look a lot better than it is. There is like false advertising and like fraud is what it would be like to suspect if people are taking pictures and then alternating and jacking up those. You can, through Photoshop, change individual colors, but we use like an app called Snapseed where you can raise the saturation, and all it does is basically take out the white coloration that the lights bleed out when the photo is taken. Now, it is up to the person to not overdo it and actually try and make it as natural looking as it possibly can. So I don't know if the pinks are overdone saturation or if it's raw footage or what. If it was raw footage, that's quite impressive. But again, that would just be selective breeding. You see a little white coloration that isn't strong enough, and they ran with it. So with other colors, it's usually white, as nice as a white as you possibly can be. But as soon as you see something that's a little off, if you can take that and run with that aspect and selective breed it into its own color, then yeah, that's something to work with. Kind of like what we're doing with the pink steels. It's very hard to get the pink to come up online and show out. But every person I show to in person is like, oh, I never thought I'd see a pink shrimp unless it was a dead shrimp. I think that's LRB's like exact words. So I didn't answer this.
Living Dream Aquatics. I'm out in outer space tonight. I'm in the Galaxy Pinto realm. My Galaxy Pintos seem the white goes from a white to a light blue tint. Can that be normal, or is it something else going on?
That's completely normal. It's going to happen. Like I mentioned, it's honestly harder to get a solid white shrimp than it is to get the blue ones. In the beginning, shadow pintos were way more desirable and harder to get, but after everybody had shadow pandas in their colony of Taiwan bees, it seemed like 90% of the babies were coming out blue instead of white. It is possible, I believe, to get the white pandas, the Taiwan beasts, through selective breeding QRLs and a good line of red King Kongs, and getting the shadow pandas through Michelings, or not shadow pandas, normal pandas. But other than that, it's going to be majority of all Taiwan bee lines from mostly shadows, and then it's the same with all Tai bees. You're going to get the shadow, the blue coloration out of it because of it.
Boots and Cats says, at what point can you tell whether a shrimp is breeding stock or a cull? Do you separate before they are fully grown?
So it honestly depends on the kind of shrimp. The Galaxy Pintos, the fancy tigers and stuff like that, we do give them a little bit more wiggle room. But for the most part, I like to remove shrimp at 1 centimeter. If they're bigger than that, the males can become mature and they can start breeding with the rest of your stock. So that's a big reason why a lot of people use grow-out tanks, because they don't want one of the ugly males to tag one of the females. We're really good at identifying the culls really small and able to get them out of the tank before that happens. But 1 centimeter is generally where I yank anybody that is in our standards.
Johnny asked, what species do you prefer I keep with my mixed red pintos?
Honestly, they're mixed red pintos. I wouldn't add anything in there except for like some mixed black pintos, and then you'd get the best of both worlds. The mixed pintos, I mean, there is a possibility that they came from my Galaxy tank. Now that I'm thinking about it, they're just mixed pintos. So I have gone to 2 of my Cull Galaxy tanks and sold some of the mixed pintos out of there. However, if you don't see any of the Galaxy Pintos in your tank, and you just have the German spot head, the German belly, and the German zebra Pintos, then I wouldn't throw anything in there and keep the German line going. You could mix any of the Taiwan bees, but you're going to lose a lot of the patterns for the Pintos, and then of course you ruined your Taiwan bees by mixing them into the Pinto genetics. But you could also keep some like Stardust or some raccoons in there that wouldn't crossbreed. There's a possibility they can crossbreed, but I think it's very, very low. And if it were to happen to you, you'd be the first, if not one of the first. So.
Mimic said, how often should I change the water in tanks? I won't need it for a few months. I'm running tanks to get them ready to be cool breeder tanks. I won't need them for a while.
It depends on like if you have any plants or anything in there. I would just do like a small water change every 2 to 3 weeks, just to kind of like stay on a schedule and get into a routine. But like you really don't need to if you're not having to replace any of the minerals or anything. But if you're growing moss or stuff like that, I would just jump on a normal cycle and get that stuff growing and nice and healthy. Did Crypt Keeper ever message me tonight? It was his week. I don't know if he remembers or not. Right? Last week he was not on. We just talked about the Clash. The week beforehand he was on, and we talked about the Clash while he was on. So if Crypt Keeper doesn't show up, has he been in the live stream at all tonight?
No, he was at Scotty's.
All right. So I'm going to say no Crypt Keeper tonight. However, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on his live stream, I will be joining him, and we are setting up a crypt farm tank. We had 2 separate booths at the Keystone Clash, and I think next year we are going to kind of work together, grow crypts out with one another, and then join our booths so that way we can just go ahead and rely on one another if it gets busy. and split the crip sales instead of trying to compete with one another. And also, he's going to grow out some of the larger crips, harder to get crips, and that way they'd be in better condition, and we're working with one another instead of against each other. So, also crips in our corner a lot. I like to invest in people who are in our corner. And is did he just say? Oh,
What?
I don't know. There's Timothy. So I was like, oh,
No.
did he just join? So, um, yeah, we're going to set up a 75-gallon farm tank. I'm going to definitely convince him to grow out some pink flamingos, probably some red spiralis and other things like that. I think he had a few crips listed. But do you want to do the giveaway? Or this first, then giveaway?
What makes a steel shrimp? Are there only blue steel or other color steels too?
So a steel is a hybridized serrata shrimp with the Taiwan B gene that resembles a bolt. You have red bolts, white bolts, and blue bolts. They are a Taiwan B, but basically the steels are hybridized bolts. So you could have red, blue. We've had a yellow one before in the past with no luck getting that to pass on its genetics, but we still have that tank going, so maybe we'll get some more of those in the future. We do have some orange as well as some pink steels, and it's basically possible to make other colors through selective breeding. It's just not really being done yet. So we do have a video, blue steel versus blue bolt, that kind of goes into the genetics and talks about the differences through different kinds of steels, because there's crazy blues, there's ocean blues, but they're all basically a blue steel. What you doing here?
Trying to find a red steel, but that is blue.
Oh,
I
so
can't get out of it.
the only other really thing that is on my list to talk about are the different backlines that you could possibly have on the Galaxy Pintos. With no backline and just the zebra stripes, that is your run-of-the-mill Galaxy Pinto. But then you can bring up this one if you want, real quick. Shelby's going through a bunch of pictures, so I'm like, this one will work for what I'm about to talk about. Then once you have the Pinto, you can get a backline on the Pinto like this shrimp has here, from the nose all the way down the tail with the actual zebra stripes. It makes it look like a fishbone. And then from there, you can kind of lose the zebra stripes to where they kind of blend together, like the other red Pinto that we brought up earlier from the international contest, where it's just not really clean zebra stripes, and they call it a cape, but I don't think it's as desirable as the full-on zebra striping. And then without the zebra stripes, you can have just the back line, and like I mentioned before, those are the skunks. So you can have skunks, regular galaxies, fish bones, as well as the capes. So all of them, though, are still going to be the Galaxy Pintos.
Johnny said, is a snowflake considered a tapwater shrimp?
No. The snowflakes, all the Galaxy Pintos, everything that I'm talking about tonight pretty much is going to be the Caridina. You need the GH only minerals with the RO water and the aqua soil, especially for the snowflakes. Like, those are expensive. You want to invest in the setup before you invest in the shrimp. The shrimp are going to be the more expensive part. So do the setup right.
Giveaway, we're going to talk about that, is for our new exclusive prints. It's hard to see now because the light's right there. That one obviously was fitting for tonight's topic, and that is my shrimp and my boost that's in there. Well, you can't even see the flower. It's a there we go. It's blooming.
I will have to say that Shelby's shrimp is like the most popular for our subscribers. The red Galaxy Pintos are dwindling down. No more medium grades. We have some low grades. Probably have more babies available in the future,
Yep.
but we did move around so many of Shelby's tanks that they need to recuperate a little bit before we sell the higher grades. So we got some prints to hold you down in case you really wanted some spotting.
So hashtag scales. Heather asked, will you be having a Black Friday sale this year? Of course we will.
Yeah.
We love our Black Friday sale.
So the Black Friday sale does two things for us. One, it gets rid of a lot of the stock that is outside that can't take the colder temps. And then two, it gets rid of a lot of the stock outside so we don't have to deal with the colder temps when it comes time to December and January. It can be a little bit cold outside here in Florida, and the water is even chillier and cold hands. It's just not a fun day after catching 100 shrimp out of the greenhouse. Our greenhouse isn't like a hot house, it's just like a shade house. So it's colder in the greenhouse than probably outside of it sometimes.
Mimic says, how do you deal with the higher male to female ratio in coal tanks, particularly in colonies where your coals are still high grade shrimp?
If it's a coal tank, I don't worry about it anymore. If they made it to the coal tank, I don't care if they're high grade. It's a coal tank for a reason. But generally speaking, when you go through and you sell coals, because the coal tank is heavy males, it kind of like fixes itself because the coals will end up being a lot on the male side. So that is a reason why I don't recommend people buying coals if they want to get into breeding. Coals are a great way to add color to your tank or to test out and see if you're even capable of keeping the shrimp alive. Or if you have already a colony going and you want to add in some coals of some other shrimp, it's a great way to add in a different variety and get some males spreading out the genetics.
And this one is Big Shrimpin says, how much do you rinse that Brightwell soil? I thought I rinsed the crap out of it and just filled it and the water is black.
That's the problem. You're not supposed to rinse it. So if you're rinsing it with tap water, you're basically killing it faster than you could use it. So put it in the tank, dry, and fill it up slowly with RO water, and you won't have any coloration in the water at all. I think you can go to our videos on how to set up the Caridina shrimp tanks, and I show how slowly or like any of our water change tanks, and you'll see like the water doesn't get mixed up. But if you're washing it with tap water, it's a good chance you might have ruined the actual structure of the substrate itself with the cage and the water.
Johnny, you email thegardenofeater@gmail.com and we'll give you your discount code.
Yeah, anybody that hasn't gotten a sticker or a coupon code, if you could please just send us a reminder, an email. The last few weeks have been hectic for us, especially if it was before that. I'm super sorry. But sometimes we just need a little reminder, but we'd like to make it right.
But yeah, thank you, Jeff. I had to have the little boost in there. I was like, my tank is just, I've always had the boost in there and it flowers, and it's always been like the perfect tank, and it got me super excited to keep going with it. So it's like the smallest little detail, but the cutest things like that will get you. My favorite thing is to garden, so to have my little flowers in a tank, love it. Johnny Best says, how many shrimp tanks does Shelby have? I don't know, because technically they're all both of ours, and but like there's specific ones that are specifically not mine, so like 100 of them specifically I
say
cannot
Shelby
touch.
has 8 of her tanks that I don't touch.
Yeah.
But like, I still sell the shrimp for her in the Galaxy Pintos because she's like, she doesn't want to let any of them go.
Yeah.
But like the Tangerine Tiger tanks, I would say are now hers.
Yeah, you stole one back from me.
And then I gotta have some. I got that one right there in the corner. That one's And then the orange neos outside, Shelby probably did all the work on those. So if she want to enter those in a contest, that's rightfully hers.
Yeah.
And then the pure black lines, we're still fighting for those.
Yeah, there's a lot of tanks. I mean, it's kind of hard to say whose is whose until you start culling and taking care of it, because like I feed a lot of the times, so like, you know, they're staying alive because of me too. But he does water changes, so it's really hard to say it. But like, there's certain tanks that like you can't touch, and I can't touch his. There's a lot more of his that I cannot touch though. I was trying to steal some shrimp the other day. Won't
Yeah, but,
let
like,
me.
In another year or two, I probably can't touch any of her guppy tanks or
Yeah.
Achilles. I don't know why I said guppies.
Well, yeah, you can't touch my Gadea tanks, things like that. Also, I'll have my own shrimp tanks when I do my fish room.
She says that,
certain ones.
but I will be the one that has to go and inspect the tanks and yank any of them with the crooked spines and feed them to the mata mata because she just doesn't have the heart to do it.
I love my little gimpies, okay?
He's got like a week, and then he's going.
No, he's cute. If you're coming in late, hashtag scales for the giveaway as well. I'm behind. And okay. Johnny said, Grant, it will be educating to speak about wild shrimps for newbies. We should do a wild shrimp
Johnny,
live stream.
you need to comment that down in one of the videos. That might be a contender to win you a print next week.
I like that one.
Or you don't have to comment. I guess if we make it a thing, that was your idea, and I'll just give you the print.
Yeah, just write it down.
Yeah, for
You'll
those
forget.
that don't know, if you recommend a topic for a live stream that's good enough, we will send you a Sam Scales print. But it's got to be one we haven't already done. It's got to be original and something I can actually talk about for an hour, not just why I pick speakers for our club, Dave. It's not good enough.
Sterling said, what would you recommend as the best Caradina Maria? Like, what's the Tangerine Tiger of the Maria side? Hardiest, fastest breeding, etc.
Oh, at first I was just gonna straight up throw on hands down the orange-eyed black tigers. Duh, that's what I won the most awards with. Period. But when you said the hardiest and the fastest breeding, I don't think there is one that's better than the other. I think they're all about slow growing as possibly and all the same hardiness. Like the red tigers right now are like the ones we have available on the website, but we have struggled with red tigers in the past. And because we have them available now doesn't mean I'll have them available next month. Like the numbers are very low. The Super Tigers at one point I thought were just as hardy as the Tangerine Tigers, but like for the last year, they've been playing with my heart and my emotions, and I thought I was really getting them to go and breed out, and then I forgot that I threw in an orange-eyed Yellow King Kong in there to get orange-eyed Super Tigers. Found some orange-eye of that actual cross up in a different tank, but then that reminded me that that other tank is looking a little orange, and I think they've got some Tangerine Tiger genetics in them going on. So that tank is no longer Super Tiger. So I thought that was breeding like crazy. I do have one other tank that is pure, that is breeding, just not like crazy. So like all of our other orange eye blue tigers and the black tiger tanks, they breed at a good steady rate, just not enough that I can like really sell out a ton of them. I'd love to like just dedicate like 20 tanks to orange eye blue tigers if I had the space.
Easy V Rider said, how are blue tigers made, and what would come from mixing them with tangerine tigers?
So Aurora blue tigers are a wild type, just like tangerine tigers. The orange eye blue tigers, I don't necessarily know if that's a wild type, because there's people that talk about them being in caves and that they're blind, and then there's other people that talk about that they're a mutation from a normal tiger, which would be the wild type Caradina Maria. I don't know which one is true, and I don't know. Maybe that's something for Alex to go out and research and give us the facts. But yeah, they're more than likely a wild type. You don't make them though; they're either a wild type or a mutation. So either way, you can't make them. Oh, but if you cross them with the tangerine tiger, you either can make orange-eyed tangerine tigers with the Caridina Maria. But if you use the Aurora blue tigers, that's how you make the green apple tigers, which are like kind of green, but they're really not that green. I'm not happy with the results of anybody's to call them green, but that's what they are.
Coro said, "Are the Sam Scales prints internationally eligible?" We'd have to ask Sam if he could ship them. I think he can.
I don't know. If somebody wins a print and you're international, I will figure,
We'll figure it
out
out.
if we can.
think
And
Sam
if
can.
not, we can give it away at a later date in your memory. But if Sam can, in
Just
your
killing
honor.
people off all over
Oh
here.
no, this is the second night or second live stream. Last week I killed Crip. This week, sorry. Yeah.
You're right.
Hopefully,
Grant has no problem talking for 2 hours. I don't think he even needs to breathe, honestly.
I did look at the hour and 6 mark. You can go back and like look. I looked up at the clock and I was like, oof. I got a lot. I got a lot of nothing to talk about for the next hour. But I think we're behind in chat, so it's good. It's good.
Jeff said Grant an hour per wild line.
Mm-mm.
He actually might.
No, I couldn't. There's not a lot to talk about. A lot of the wild type shrimp. So, but there is quite a few wild types when I think about it.
Yes, that's why I was like, that's a good one because I instantly knew there's at least a few. So Lady Diane said, Shelby, are you making this? Took me way too long to get what the BBS baby brine shrimp is what I'm assuming because you gave us an awesome hatchery and guess what? I'm too lazy. I haven't done it yet. Also, we haven't really been home, so that doesn't really help. And we also have multiple trips coming up. But as December rolls around and the fish room starts to be built, hopefully, that would be lovely Christmas present. It would be nice to get that rolling and going. It's in the garage. I know exactly where I put it, so at least I know that. But will you slow down in December a little bit? You know, give us a little break for the holidays. Besides, like packages, those are crazy. But you know, other than that, no like traveling and stuff like that. Cross my fingers. Please do not make us travel in December.
Two things. One, I didn't expect Shelby to do anything with the baby brine shrimp until we set up the new bedroom. That's why I was like, I'm not even going to take it because we'll just get one from Corey when we're ready. And you're like, but it's here. Take it. So I took it. So Shelby's got until the bedroom before it actually has to go into use. But the other thing is we've got something for you. We just got to ship it to you. And I don't know if you want
I'm writing
some.
that down because, like,
Yep.
I'll be upset.
The problem is I remember it, and then we have like 6 orders that go through overnight, and then we no longer have like the time to get to it. So I apologize, but we will get you your little package soon, Lady Diane.
He says, Shelby and Grant, how are my favorite shrimp rock stars doing? It was so awesome to see at the Clash. I wanted to thank you both for sharing in my blushing, joyous miracle at the Clash with Chattanooga Ed. Still super happy for that. It's so wonderful. And it was so nice to see you again. Love it.
You were just as happy as ever, but I did see a different glow on Ed. He was extra happy.
He was rosy. I would say he was
blushing
rosy
the whole time. So yeah, that was lovely to see.
Lady Diane said, "Wait till she orders."
Wait till you order. You don't need to order anything. Just tell me what you want, and I'll just put it in the package. Don't order anything.
Heather said, "Are orange-eye blue tigers hard to keep and breed compared to tangerine tigers?"
All right. So if on a scale of 1 to 10, tangerine tigers were a 10 on how easy they were, I would say orange-eye blue tigers are like a hard 6. They're not that easy to keep and breed. They seem like they're hardy because they can take the different range and variety of parameters, but they grow so much slower than other shrimp, and because of that, you really have to keep the water parameters stable and consistent. If you're doing anything goofy with the water, and you change anything, the survival rate of the babies is going to go down. So that is why they're not easy as other shrimp. But if you are consistent and stable, they're a good one to have, and they are hardy in the fact that they can take multiple different ranges of the pH. I'm just gonna tap on you like I'm typing.
I know,
from
it's
now
driving
on.
me crazy.
It's helping me think.
This is funny. Okay, so Boots and Cats said Clash Wedding. Let's not rush this with Ed and Monkey. But like, how magical would that be? You have everyone there that supports you and loves you, a free venue. Like,
You-
honestly,
The wedding is
It's nice.
actually at the banquet, and then you leave after the banquet.
like just walk down the aisle where everyone's already sitting. Too easy, honestly. We can throw flowers.
New local
It's
Austin
easy.
would be the one to actually marry you. Like, I can't think of anybody else to do it. Hit Rico. Rico would be another hard, good choice.
Matt said, Grant, put some orange eyes in a box and send them to Dee Dee Stat because she says she doesn't have orange eyes. Those are literally the coolest things in the world. Like, I have, spoiled alert a little bit, an awesome Halloween TikTok, or sorry, Instagram story. What are those called? Reels coming out closer to Halloween. So keep an eye on that. I love it. There might be some before that though, because I don't think I can hold off enough. I have like 10 Halloween songs saved. So
She has some really good videos coming out. If you guys haven't seen some of the little short videos that we've been posting out, Shelby's been having some fun. Let's just say that. It was just convenient yesterday. I posted the golf one while golfing, and
like
then the kids are
midnight.
like, "Who did that? Which one? Was that you? Was that Grant? Was that Matt? What? Who did that?" I was like, "It was just something about online. Neither one of us broke the camera."
That's funny. Oh man. Dee Dee says hoping for engagement at the very least. There's so many fish fan couples. Grant's made jokes about getting married at an aquashella because in Chicago they usually have an Indian wedding and their food is just to die for. Obviously,
I knew I
and,
loved
like,
Indian food before I ever even tried it because of the smell. You're
There's
walking
always a
through this
wedding.
venue.
Always.
We did like 6 shows at this Renaissance Hotel in Schaumburg, Chicago, or Illinois. It's not Chicago. And every single time there is a banging Indian wedding. Like no like mediocre, like there's flowers on the Bugatti outside last time. And they shut off the whole bottom floor area that you could walk through normally to get to the expo. And you have to go above it where it's all open room. So you're just basically walking in a bridge above this wedding. And the smell, the aroma is
So
just killing you. You're like, I just want to like drop a fishing rod down there and just try to steal somebody's plate, or just ask one of them, hey, can you bring me whatever that is that smells that good? And it's the same smell that hit us in the face when we're walking around the North Carolina Expo, and I'm going, I gotta have some of this food before we leave. And we had it with Harley, and it's one of my favorite all food groups now, for sure. It's not better than Thai food, but oh man, is it good! And very few places have come as good as the North Carolina place. But yeah, we can have a wedding there. Most of our good friends are already there.
I'm laughing so much at this. Like Boots and Cats honestly should be a wedding planner for the Fish family. Make an archway out of driftwood. Like it's getting better. It's getting better.
Or we just actually recreate the arch that we did and just make.
I feel like Ed would want to make it on Crafted. It would be honest. It would be cool. Anyways, I should ask Oinky what her favorite thing is, and then I'll ask Ed to do that for Crafted the next time, and I'll be like, oh, that was just for Oinky. That's a good way. Sterling said, would using orange-eyed yellow King Kong as the Serrata get a jump start on orange-eyed galaxies?
So honestly, the Yellow King Kong and the tangerine gene is so strong, I would be thinking about that over the orange eye actually being thrown in. So personally, I would use like an orange-eyed black tiger or an orange-eyed royal blue that has the orange eye without the serrata gene in it, because it's so hard to pull that orange coloration out of it. But at the same time, they're not as hardy. They don't breed as fast. So you could use the orange-eyed yellow King Kong and end up getting more babies, and in the end, getting your result faster. But it's going to be more work, more culling. So, like, to each your own. It's a good one to use, but I don't know if it's the best one. It's like a hard choice.
Johnny Best said, I have a deep bed aqua soil seasoned substrate planted. Should I keep a trumpet snail before the longer have it so I won't create any gas pockets? I'm so sorry if I read that wrong.
I would add in the trumpet snails during the cycle to get it going. We didn't do it on these tanks here, and these tanks aren't that good as the tanks that we actually purposely did it for. The tanks in Layla's room, and the tanks in Layla's room are like, some of them are going bazooka on the breeding. Like there's tons of babies being cranked out of a lot of those tanks in there. And I think just the snails getting a jump start and getting ahead of the game and being able to feed those and keep the cycle going is a beautiful thing if you can get over the fact that there's snails in their tank. Snails are horrible creatures. Like, when you really want to think about it, they're ugly, they fall apart, they die, and they leave their homes for somebody else to have to take care of afterwards. And most of them are just like trailer trash looking homes in the first place, and they're just scattered all over the place like it's freaking Florida after a hurricane. So yeah, like, if you can get over the horrific sight of snails, they're amazing little creatures that benefit the shrimp habitat quite a bit.
Just remember that you do have to keep down the snail population. Don't let it get too extreme, because sometimes it could be outcompeting your shrimp for the food. You don't want to overfeed, which would cause more snails, more competition for food. So, yeah. There's a reason why we use Shrimp Envy compared to a lot of other brands of some shrimp foods on the market. It's because it breaks up and the shrimp are able to grab it and take it and be able to have their little pieces, especially when snails start to become a part of the pile. It's a little bit harder for the shrimp to get in there. Trust me, some of those.
Then they start eating the snail slime. They'll start eating the dead snails too. So you can just squish a couple. They love it.
Who knew an Amish man loved Indian food so much?
Not really Amish tonight, but let me tell you what about that Amish blueberry pie. I can't believe I haven't finished that thing yet. Like, part of me wants to like save it so I still have it.
I don't know if you meant to put Indiana food is great and they aren't shy with the seasonings, because I'm laughing because my family's from Indiana and my mom knows butter and salt like no other. And that's the seasonings from Indiana. I just thought that was funny. But that was just
Drew is dropping some parameters there. Is the previous question to that I missed, Drew?
I think it's maybe after. There we go.
Oh.
GH 3, KH 8, pH 8.3, parts per million 450. So
that's probably
TDS. Safe to say RODI and remineralize?
Yes, absolutely, because it seems like your water is already going through a water softener in order for your KH to be higher than your GH. That's usually something that you want to avoid at all costs. So,
Heather said, I saw a German breeder on a recent YouTube video, and he has acclimated his Caridina shrimp to 7 to 7.5 and 300 TDS. How hard would it be to do that?
All right. Is that the exact same video that Chris Lukop goes to the house and the guy's got all the little tiny little like 3-liter Denarly aquariums? I could be wrong, but if it's that video, I can't even remember the guy's name. This is horrible. Anyways, he set up the aquariums for the Caridina shrimp parameters, and then over time, his substrate has exhausted and no longer is buffering that low. The other thing is like, dude might not be selling a lot of shrimp. He looked like he had a bunch of babies in those tanks, but like what happens is with Caridina shrimp, they can get stunted and they can stay really, really small, real tiny for a very long time. So is he just having batches of babies on top of one another and none of the kids are really growing up? So it's really, I'd love to sit down and talk with that guy more. But then also, when is he testing his pH? Is his pH at night that high and in the morning it's really low? Problem with his YouTube videos is they don't really dive into all the
Aquarium
information and don't ask all the questions.
That's where it's from.
Yeah.
My only say,
It
I
might
don't
be
know.
the same guy though, you know.
I don't know if you said something, but when we have taken Caridina shrimp into higher parameters, they slow their breeding down
Yeah.
dramatically. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I
I
did.
should have listened. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, you're good. I don't listen to you either, to be fair.
Living Dream Aquatics says, is there different types of boost plants? If so, which one handles the Caridina parameters?
Yes, there is many varieties of boosts. There is very few of them that are actually scientifically documented. The other thing is a lot of them are named by their flowers. So it's really just all of the boosts pretty much handle the same except for the skeleton keys. There's another name for them. I can't remember it right now.
For what?
The boosts, the skeleton key. Do you remember what the bigger leaf ones?
Mm-mm.
They did have another name. I can't remember them right now, but there are ones that get like ridiculously longer than the other ones. Those ones don't last underwater very long. They need to come out of water to like kind of grow new leaves, I think. All of the other ones, the smaller varieties, the non-skeleton keys, those are all just going to be just as easy as one another. They all grow super, super slow. The smaller the actual plant, the slower it grows. So the bigger you get, the faster it grows. The palm tree boost seems to be a big one that isn't a skeleton key that kind of grows pretty big. We have some apple broadleaf that grows pretty big at a decent rate, but like decent for boost is still slower than a snail. Like they grow incredibly slow. That's one of the good things that I like to have them in Caridina tanks is you don't have to worry about trimming. You can put them on a piece of wood or something like that, and they're going to take some nutrients out of the water, but like, let's be honest, not much at all. Like they're not a filter that you could add into your aquarium.
Yeah. So to give you a reference of how long it does take to grow, I started off with one boost in my Pinto tank. I'm only up to 4 separate plants out of that. And that tank has been running for over 3 years. So I'd say like a plant a year, and it's not like great growth. You know, they're kind of small. So Passing Wind said, why are shrimp reluctant to donate to charity? Because they're inherently selfish. Because they're, oh, it repeated itself. That's great. I like that.
It's not bad.
Don't
Yeah.
forget hashtag scales if you're coming in here a little late for the giveaway for our exclusive print. I'm sorry if I can't do this. I suck at that.
Skeleton key is the right name, but Achilles is the other.
Achilles. Like Achilles.
Yeah.
Okay.
So stay away from those. All the other boosts are going to be great, though. The big difference is like the Keegan is like the curly leaves. So
Johnny Best says, I think I've been thinking of Cripps plant Never had them. Will they handle Caridina shrimp parameters? Will Crips handle Caridina?
Absolutely. I consider Crips as one of the three horsemen. It's Crips, Anubis, and Swords. Pretty much if you're killing one of those three plants, you're probably killing a lot of other plants. Java ferns and moss should be a part of it, but it's only the three horsemen, or not the five horsemen. So maybe I guess I could just call it the five horsemen and include those. But there are people whose water is so clean and polished that the ferns and the moss don't really get the chance to grow. But the Crips, the Swords, you can put root tabs, little Osmocote pellets in there, and get them to go and do just fine in just about all the parameters of water that you keep fish in, besides salt water, obviously. I don't recommend Crips for Caridina tanks because I don't like to mess with the substrate with our shrimp tanks, and they do tend to grow. And then they want to cover up the front of the aquarium where you can't see your shrimp when you feed them, and then the Crips become a problem. And for that reason, we don't do Crips in our Caridina tanks usually, but we do have some of them with them. I just would prefer to pull all the shrimp out of the aquarium before I mess with any of the Crips. So.
Sterling said my discount code isn't working. I'm working on that right now to figure that out. So give me a second on that. And then Loving Dream said thank you. Welcome in, Big Cat. Coro said stay away from chili. Boost got it, Grant.
Don't stay away from chili. I think chili is another name. Oh no, that's an Anubis.
That was how you pronounced Achilles. Brandon said my dark skeleton king melted, saved the rhizome, and it's coming back so slow. Yeah, they are very slow.
That one would do better if you put it in like a dark frog terrarium or something like that. It would really get to grow. The rhizome would be a lot better. By the way, fix my rhizome problem. It'll be rhizomes from now on, guys. Don't worry. I don't know why.
Where's Dr. Anthony to be?
That hit me in front of Crypt Keeper, and I'm like, that's what I do all the time on the live streams, don't I? And he's like, yeah, you do it with a few words. And I'm like, I don't know why I do that. I know what it is. I know.
The worst is when you stick around and I have to listen to him all the time. So then I pick it up and then I start saying things wrong all the time. And then when I'm not around him and I'm saying it, I just look stupid. I need more help to not look stupid. That's why I don't talk much.
You throw me off though, because I say Cladophora and every now and then you say the Cladophora every now and then.
Probably all the time.
Throws me off just a little bit.
Welcome in Mountain Green.
Now I have to think hard, like to mess up Cladophora. I have to what was the way we said it before?
I'm caught up, so you need to figure out something to talk about.
Well, you know what? We've got 23 minutes here, and there's nothing on my list.
We'll make a new list.
If anybody has any shrimp questions or anything like that,
I
do know that we just wrapped up filming the video for, well, actually just the B-roll footage for Jaden's room. I still have to sit down and do all the voiceover, and Shelby films all that, so that way there's no blank footage in between. And then basically just going through right now, we have halfway prepped one of the walls. It is the last wall in the house that still has the ugly yellow paint from my mother.
It's not yellow. It is mustard.
It is not
It's
not
mustard.
a pleasant color to have in your living room.
Last wall.
It definitely doesn't match with anything going on now. But once
So funny.
once the wall's painted, we will be building another rack. The rack will be holding, I think it's 26 10-gallon tanks. No, 28. 26 did not work. 28 10-gallon tanks, or it'll be 24. But I'm pretty sure it'll be 28. And that will put us well over the 400 tanks in the house. And then quickly afterwards, like this is my goal, is for the next three weeks to build a rack a week. So the rack by the front door will get done, hopefully by the end of this week. Then the other rack for all the rimless tanks will get done the following week, and then right before we leave for South Carolina, I'm hoping to get the corner rack done. If they're not painted, they're not painted, but they'll be built.
Okay, that's more realistic because the
Well-
painting is like the longest process. But
Even
okay,
even bigger deal than all that I've mentioned before. My parents are coming to town. They live in Hawaii. They haven't been here for a very long time. And whereas most of you would come to the house and be like, "Ooh, look at all the aquariums," my dad's gonna see like the foundation here seems to give me a little concern. And so yeah, I'm gonna be prepping the house and making sure that nothing is gonna make my dad go, "We need to go to Home Depot and fix this." So we are crossing the T's and dotting the I's with everything around the house and getting it all prepped and looking nice. But we also have Gary Lane coming to town, so it's kind of like a good thing that I can like just clean the house for the both of them and not have to. Shelby can clean the house for the both of them, and I don't have to worry about anything. I pick it up after myself, but Shelby does all the hard scrubbing while I just clean the tanks, little bits here and there. And I do it, and then Shelby's
You're
not
just
happy
getting
with
worse.
it. So it gets done the first time, the right
typical.
time.
Typical. Were we expecting anything different from you? No.
No.
I'm sorry. I have to go back to the paint of the house. They asked me what color paint we want the living rooms, knowing they were moving out. And I was like, yeah, I really like green. Green is just like it for us. Nature, calming, soothing. I left for work, came back, and it was all yellow. And I was like, what went wrong here? And I didn't say anything, obviously. And it was like cool. She did the accent walls. I just thought it was hilarious. I looked at Grant and I was like, I said green. What happened? And no one explained it. And years later, he said something to his mom, like, oh, we're finally got rid of the yellow walls. And she's like, what are you talking about? I just still find that funny. But anyway.
She went from I never painted them yellow to those were the colors you picked. So
it's still making me laugh. It's okay. They weren't that bad. It was just not us. So Heather asked, how do you get the discount code? So we, if you are a YouTube member, which is our, what are those called? YouTube memberships. I'm terrible with this.
if you support us
It's
and you
monthly,
have paid for the membership fee on YouTube, you can email us at thegardenofeater@gmail.com. Please send us your YouTube name, your name and address, and we will double check that you are a member. And if it goes through, then we send you an email with your discount code if you need it to make an order. Otherwise, we usually write it with the note that we send with the sticker. But either way, doesn't matter. We will happy to give you the code early, but you have to be a member.
Yeah, and you get your shiny exclusive sticker too. And then if you're a member with us for 12 months, we are also putting packages together for that. It would be cute little goodies.
It's supposed to be a nice little Sam Scales print like this, but Sam did all the prints besides the one that we could have given away for the Clash and all of our long-term supporters. So it is a shrimp, though, that you cannot purchase off of anyone. So it is truly exclusive. And I felt like that was a little bit more sentimental and a little nicer offering to those that have supported us for so long.
Brandon has an Anubias pangolino. I still said that wrong.
So there is two different varieties of that, I believe. We had one. I don't know where in the house, which pile of moss it's hiding under, but it stayed so tiny since we got it in tissue culture. It's just been a really, really slow grower. Brian Covey from Aquachar has some that he got from Germany from Esther herself. and it's massive in size. So, Brandon, is yours tiny or is it pretty big? I'd like to know.
Yeah, I thought those were supposed to be tiny, right?
Yeah.
So Heather asked.
The leaf structure was right, though, so I believed Brian.
Heather says, "Have you used Turbo Start 700 before?"
No, I believe that's a Fritz product, and inside the house, we have never used anything of Fritz. I know they're a great company. They make a lot of products for other companies, but we've just never had a reason or tried it here ourselves. So we've used the Fritz dechlorinator at shows before just fine. I do know that people do like the Turbo Start, though.
Welcome in, Mel. Shitty Grady says, "How big are the baby Caridina shrimp when they have their first molt?"
Super, super tiny. Next question. No, I don't know. I don't know, like, how to, like, definitely answer that, like, with
I don't think anyone actually
with a
knows.
size measurement, but they are very small, just as small as the Neocaridina. But the cool thing is like the Neocaridina have like no color as babies, so even like the reds look like they're clear and they're worthless. But the Caridinas, they look like little miniature action figures. Like if you buy the NASCAR uh, replica of the actual car that did the race, and it's just scaled down. That's what like the Caridina shrimp look like compared to the parent. So it's very, very neat to see them. But they're really hard, and sometimes you don't even see them for the first molt because they're hiding, and their mothers did a very good job at placing them in an area where they wouldn't get eaten or threatened.
No, the draw is not over yet. Still can enter #scales. It will probably be about 4 minutes when we pull that at 150 mark. So, and then
Sounds good.
I can't pull it up, but thank you so much, Fish Fam Link. Gifted 5 memberships to the Garden of Eater. Says, looks like we have now Passing Wind, Lady Diane, Malcolm Reynolds, Coro. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And Brandon. So email us at thegardenofeater@gmail.com and we can send you out your lovely sticker and your discount code. Thank you so much, Fish Family.
Thank you, Fish Family.
Honestly,
And
they did.
everyone who contributes that. It's not just Matt, you know.
I forgot to bring my little cat. I got the cutest cat from Fish Fam Link. It's so cute.
I might have already broken it.
I fixed it already.
I know. I'm just letting people know.
But anyways, we're going back up. There was a couple questions here.
And if Amisa, is that the name, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one that missed Shelby's note to put hold for pickup. So that's on me. I'm sorry.
Mimic says, I have 3 Neo colonies, red cherries, blue dream, and orange lilies. Can anything besides wilds come from mixing any of them?
Yes and no. I mentioned it before. Cross them. If you're curious, if your line is going to make wilds, then do it. If you've got the tank space, then go ahead and try it out. Red cherries with blue dreams, you can actually make red lilies with blue bodies. However, I did it the very first 2 colonies of shrimp that I had, and I got the red lilies with blue bodies. And it was one of the things that got me hooked in the hobby to where I thought I could create something new way faster than chameleons. And I had to have every variety out there so I could make the next new variety, right? And that was before I knew that red cherries, red tigers, and red crystals were all different kinds of shrimp. I thought it was just like selective breeding that one shrimp to get the others, right? But afterwards, when I lost my red really blue bodies and I wanted to get them back again because I sold them off because they weren't not popular and nobody really wanted them and I didn't have enough room for everything, so I dwindled something down, got something new. I wanted them back. It took me 10 more tries to get them to breed red really blue body and not make wilds. I tried this line of red really or red cherries, this line of red cherries with that line of blue dreams, and mixed them all up and stuff like that. And I was just getting wild Neos after wild Neos, and I was about to give up. And then I was like, you know what? Let's try these Bloody Marys with these blue dreams, and we got some really nice red, really blue bodies. So don't give up. Go ahead and try it. You could make a orange really with a red or blue body. It's just 1 in a million chance, and you had the chance that worked for you. I would do it, but only if you have the tank space and ability. Don't just start throwing your orange reallys in your blue dream tank. Then you're going to get a bunch of wilds and no longer have a blue dream tank. All right. We are over the limit. So not the limit, but like over the time where we said we are going to announce. We got 55 people. Refresh it. This is your last chance. You got to refresh it.
I know.
Okay.
Go one more time.
Oh, see, 56 entries. One person snuck in their
Why
last
does it keep
chance.
saying that I'm not signed in?
What?
Keep saying we're not signed in. There we go.
Oh.
I'm just making sure that's not going to cause an issue. So
Yes.
we're good. All
Still
right.
56.
All right. Ready?
For the Shelby Sam Scales collaboration, I would say it's a little bit of a Grant collab because I will take 50% of the credit for the boost. I'm gonna.
Keep hitting refresh till I hit the spin button. You ready?
It's 57 now. All right,
and
let's
Wheel
go.
of Music provided by Myrtle.
Oh, this is gonna be the best one yet.
It's always been Myrtle's song.
No,
Yes.
has it?
Yeah.
There's been some crazy ones I didn't think would come from Myrtle.
Yeah. There are some nice ones.
Chris Aquazone.
Chris, are you here? I think I saw you comment not too long ago.
Congratulations, Chris. This is the same Chris that we saw at Keystone Clash, right? Chris George.
Yes. Yes, they're here. Awesome. Congratulations. Stop sharing that.
Well deserved. Chris had to do a little bit of
Yes.
crowd control at the Keystone Clash.
Oh, make sure you email us at thegardenofeater@gmail.com. We probably have your address somewhere, but I have lost it since then. I'm not
Just send
as
us a
fancy as
refresher.
the Stephen P. and Jenna P. keeping a.
I think that's
nice
just
catalog.
weird
They're
how they
so
had
fancy.
everybody's name and address and date of birth all categorized. Like,
No, and you know, like back in the day, you remember those Rolodex? Those things were so cool. You always kept all of the family, numbers, their addresses in case of emergencies. So, like, it's cool to see something still like that. Like today, like a lot of people are just going to be lost. Like if we
Yeah.
just lose technology, oh my goodness, a whole generation will lose their minds. What are they going to do? How are they going to travel? Like they would never be able to do anything. We also probably could not we could make it some places, but
if it hasn't made it into the phone, my contacts are about as organized as my son's backpack.
Oh, just that.
He's actually currently grounded because of how bad his backpack stuffing has been. He has folders and he just whoosh, everything.
Easy Rewriter said you probably covered this, but how do you make Galaxy Pintos from regular Pintos?
You cross the Serrata gene. So a regular Pinto, and I'm going to say regular as in German Pinto, does not have the Serrata gene. So you then add in the dots in the back line, and that's how you get the galaxies.
Matt says, I'm in Shelby's phone as spam. Let me just say it. I have coworkers I worked with for like over a year that I didn't even save their numbers, and I was messaging them as they were a different coworker. So you're lucky if you make it into the phone at all. Like, honestly. Or it'll be some weird name, like Purple Hair that I met on this date at this show. It's good. Olivia Dream Aquatic said, are rust-colored orange-eye blue tigers considered a cull, or is it something to start a new tank for? I love them.
It depends who you ask, actually. Over in some of the overseas contests and stuff like that, there's actually points off for the rusty on the judges' sheets. So that is a bias that has been placed through the actual person organizer of the contest itself. There are though there is a trend though of the rusty, the purple coloration and stuff like that. Like Shelby likes it. I myself like it. I do appreciate the lines that don't have it. So we do have our rusty lines, and then we have on another rack
You have
lines
every
that
shade of those.
don't get as rusty, but like pretty much all of the orange eye blue tigers that I've ever kept. Doesn't matter if they're black, blue, royal, blonde, whatever. As they age and they get past that like 3-year mark, they're all gonna get a little rusty, a little, you know what I mean? It just happens with time. It's such a fitting name and like color change that happens, so it's suiting.
Sterling Aquashop says, yeah, year-round year-round Neo ponds outdoors in Colorado? Question mark.
Absolutely. If you live near the Gator facility with the thermal springs, I mean, you got that beautiful environment there. So it is doable. There was LRB who had his outdoor ponds all year round that he thermally insulated and put, I don't know if it was heaters or what exactly he did for the ponds, but he was able to keep his ponds going all year round. I would say the only real problem with outdoor ponds in the wintertime is if they were to solidly freeze all the way through. As long as you kept them like a koi pond, where there's maybe 1 inch to 6 inches of ice, but there's still an area where the bubbler is, able to put a little ripple surface tension to aerate the water, some type of pump or something like that to keep it from totally going ice cube.
Abstract said, describe the difference in body shape between Neos and Caridina shrimp.
You're demanding too much of me, and without looking at it off the top of my head, this is not something I even know or care to consider or think about. Once upon a time, I was staring at yellow King Kongs and yellow Neocaridina. And yes, the body shape of the Caridina shrimp is a little bit more boxier, a little bit fatter, and a little, well put together. Where some of the Neos are a little elongated, and it's really easy to tell with like the back lines. But like some of the emerald Neocaridina that don't get very big, that have the nice dense compact body still without the back lines, kind of look like they could be Caridina. They do have a little bit rounder belly, and the body plates are a little bit different. But without looking at them exactly, I couldn't explain this for you. The anatomy of the shrimp is something I have really not cared about. And somebody asked me, like, what are the body parts in one of my talks? And I was like, oh, man, I should really know this. But, like, after the talk, I was like, I just don't care to make this part of my talk either. Like, I don't think other people care that this is called a thorax and this is called a swimmerette. I don't know. If you care about that, it's easy to research, I'm sure.
Welcome in, just one more fish.
It's nice meeting you, Jesse. Nice to see you again.
Should be just one more shrimp, though. Jeff Kane coming in with a 16-month membership. Thank
Legendary.
you so much.
Before we even get him a print, he's going to have to get another something special. This guy, thank you so much.
It's coming.
Jeff.
We're actually getting. It's going to be better than it would have been, because like some people are going to get them at the Clash, but
We got to add
we're
a freaking
coming up
plant
with
to
an
it
awesome
now, or else
idea.
It's not going to be as good as your Galaxy Pinto.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Gonna add something. Ooh, crisp sprouts. Nah,
Taking
we
some
ain't
hooker
putting
moss
that.
because that's what's already in the tank.
No, you should. I love hooker moss.
And then he should draw like a cartoony one where the shrimp is actually like in a pimp gown, and then the hookers are on the corner.
Oh my! Goodness gracious. That'd be
Great.
funny. Nathan says a sticker alone is worth being a member. Thank you.
You gotta get new stickers though. So
They
when we
fit
start
on the
sending out
20
these stickers, you
longs.
can get some of our other stickers too.
Yeah. I know we're in the middle of rebranding, so
There's
it's exciting, but
a
it's
lot of
taking
exciting
forever.
and upcoming things that are going to be happening, and I don't even want to announce it or say anything about it because it's just teasing, right? But there's a chance that when you announce something, it doesn't happen. But then there's always like I'm putting it into existence by talking about it itself. So I don't know. Just don't want to say it though.
June, member for 9 months, says we need a celebration when we get 420 tanks.
Whoa. You know that new rack could put us at
At
exactly
exactly.
420 racks.
I'll take down a tank if it doesn't.
Just hit it with a baseball bat.
Don't say that. We already lost a tank. We're still struggling. This tank has only got like a quarter of water in it. And luckily they're just CPDs and a 55 gallon. So it's still more than enough water for them.
I
But
left the lid off
man,
and all the plants
poor
like
dad.
shriveled up and dried up for a hot minute, and I had to go like splash water in the tank to give them all life again and put the lid back on, and they're all doing good. But they were looking like that dried up alien in Mexico.
Brandon said my pangolino
I
is
saw.
small.
Very nice. I think there might be 2 varieties, but was yours started in tissue culture though? I after growing out this moss, like our moss and all the other tanks, even though it's the exact same variety of moss, and I know it is because the leaf structure and everything like that is on point. It's like these ones out of the tissue culture though are like stuck in a different form, and I know that you got to look at tissue cultures as baby plants, so they need a lot of nutrients and stuff like that when you first put them into the system or whatever. But it's like almost a year now, and it's still like stuck in the baby form. It's not like growing nice and robust like our other aquariums. So I am curious if that's for more tissue culture plants also. Doesn't be a problem for our downlight, that's for sure.
We're a little bit behind. Oinky said, Shelby and Grant, assuming everything is fine in the tank and everyone is in the group is healthy, what do you think is a reasonable lifespan for an average tiger shrimp?
3 years, I think, is fair. I've had them grow and live for over 5 or 6 years, but that's like with perfect care, taking them on trips to Chicago and Dallas and stuff like that. They really enjoy that. If you have good, healthy shrimp, they love to go to the shrimp contest and view the world, and then they live longer because of it.
Passing Wind said, what is the title?
Thank you. I was like, if I said all that and
to
I don't get a chuckle from you, you really aren't listening to me.
Someone who trades shrimp, a prawn broker. Good one. Shady Grady said, so if I'm seeing all those little mini me fancy red tigers running around the tank, like they already have their first molt, I was worried that they could still die if they didn't make it through. Yeah,
So
no, you're good.
Somebody once told me that baby shrimp cannot move and walk around until they've had their first molt, but that's not true because I've seen shrimp birth into existence, and I've poked them with a stick to get them to adjust their angle right so I can get a picture. You know what I mean? So I think they do move, just not as much, and they don't move if they don't have to. So if they're kind of grazing an area, you won't see them for a while.
Thank you so much, Craig's Catfish Cave, for the $5 super chat. It says,
Aussie dollars.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that.
You gotta say it with the accent.
No.
Crikey.
Says 420 tanks is a good number. It's not enough though. Still not enough.
My favorite thing is to
I
yell
think
at.
we're gonna push 500 at the end of the year.
No, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Is 500 for sure, because we're getting all of these 3 racks done before Aquashella, and then Aquashella, we will know how many tanks that we have, and then it's also Black Friday where they have the 50% off the tank sales, and we buy everything we need and we set up the bedroom, and we are done by the end of the year.
Thank
Guaranteed.
you so much, Craig.
Oh, but one of my favorite things to do is yell at Layla to tell her to pick up her shoes, the Crocs, and crikey.
Oh goodness. And
What are you doing now? It's
Checking
okay.
the email. Oh man.
Just
Oh,
pass the
discount
time.
code works. Just update. Yes,
Alright.
I fixed that. I'm sorry, I did not say anything, and we did just. Ugh.
Hmm?
Sterling. Nope. Nope. I did not get your email, so maybe resend it if it is pertaining to something.
We gotta talk louder.
I don't know how. All right, I think we're caught up.
I see a question though from Monkey.
Oinky says, Shelby and Grant, on a personal level, aesthetically speaking, because of body markings, what are your favorite shrimp? On body markings, I really do like the cheetah shrimp. I think they're really cool. They're just not like pleasing from far away, but like in pictures, they're the coolest. This one's a really hard question to answer. I really do not like the the like dancing men shrimp, the fancy red tigers. I'm not a fan of those. I would love Pintos over it because of the way their darker color and the spots on them too.
See, I was leaning towards fancy tigers because I
always liked
love
those.
the tiger stripes. Like
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for stripes.
If they weren't red,
But
it'd
then
just
I
be so
thought
much
hard
better.
about it, and I'm gonna go with my orange blue-eye tigers that are really blue that still have the nice tiger striping to them. Just the blue coloration. But telling you what, if I can get some actual good green coloration to my green tigers, woo! You won't stop hearing about them. I promise you that.
Jeff Kane, Shelby's Fish and Shrimp rebranding. That's what we're gonna call it now.
They're just not green enough. Like there's some green coloration to them. You can see it. Like they got green guts more than they actually have
Their
green
heads look so green.
coloration to them. So, and also hopefully the last time you see my phone with that broken screen, Shelby has been a saint through everything and gone through and taken off all of the videos and
All
photos.
5,439, and then recorded another 100 yesterday. 100.
It wasn't that much.
It was 100.
I did 100 videos.
100 videos. Maybe that was dramatic.
At least I
think
keep it
it's
100.
I'm done with you. Up for sale. A lot of people.
More than
I would
100,
get some
though.
money for you. I know. He's worth it, honestly.
Kids need to go to college.
Just duct tape him a little bit, and he's perfect. Easy Rider said, "What genetics are strong when mixing shrimp male
Or female.
or female shrimp?"
It doesn't really matter. What I like to do is I'm very, 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 very strict on my males. I only pick out the best 2 or 3. And then I kind of will be a little bit more relaxed on the females because, if you don't have enough of them, you might as well keep at least 10. And then if you can be stingy and remove all the other non-traits that you don't want, and you're still left over with 10 awesome females, then that's awesome. If not, you know what I mean? I keep some of the ugly females around just because the strong genetic male traits plus the genetics should still be there for the female. They're just not showing the right traits. So I'm always more worried about my males being higher grade than the females, but in reality, they both pass down their genetics equally. So you want highest grade possible from both.
What are your thoughts on feeding nori to your shrimp? Which I think is nori are you talking about the algae, like the dried algae, right?
I thought it was
like
like
the
a
seaweed
fungus or
wrap.
something. Oh yeah, that's right.
Seaweed wrap, is that what you're talking about? Like I would have to know if that's what you're talking about. We've never done it, so I don't know, but I would say I don't think it would hurt, honestly, but like they don't have isn't seaweed's coming from the ocean, so I don't think it would be really in their diet really. So I mean, it probably wouldn't hurt. Just like what's that green food we feed all the time?
Spirulina.
Spirulina. So like it probably wouldn't be a bad thing.
All right, so Robert Salmon wanted to know what is a Pinto Michelin,
Salmon.
asking because I saw some for sale. Well, it is a mislabeled shrimp, first of all. There's no such thing as a Michelin Pinto. Michelin is a Taiwan B shrimp crossed with a crystal shrimp, and the results are crystal shrimp that have the Taiwan B gene but are not actually Taiwan Bs. Besides that, the term Michelin is German. It's Deutsch for hybrid, basically. So it has been slapped onto all different kinds of names from breeders that don't know what a Michelin is, and then they look up Michelin and they see that it's a German hybrid, and then they think it's okay to slap it on everything else. Mark Shrimp Tanks does this. It's not okay. It is not the proper definition for a Michelin, because the Michelin has its purpose in the hobby. And like I mentioned already before, you can use a Michelin to make a normal panda that doesn't have the shadow genetics. You can use Michelins for a lot of things. So when somebody is mispronouncing or labeling something as a Michelin with another name on it, 100% they're using it as hybrid, but that person probably doesn't even have the proper genetics going into it, and they're just trying to pull names out of a hat to make it sound more appealing so they can sell it for more. I bet you it's just a normal Tang Tai Taibi that we're selling for $2 to $3, depending on the time of the year and how many of them we have available. So, yeah, I would say comment on that person and tell them there's no such thing as a Pinto Michelin. And then you can tag me in it. I'd love to give them my 2 cents. I'm the Nazi when it comes to genetics and doing that. It's not a good title, but somebody has to do it.
That was awful. Easy Rider says, do you ever feed fresh veggies like spinach or zucchini? We have. It's just so much work when we have perfectly prepared, ready to go food for us. So, I mean, my dad feeds green beans to his snails all the time, and they go crazy for it. Funny thing is, like, they eat the insides and leave the outsides of the green beans sometimes.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Because the skin is much thicker and harder for them to
so soft,
digest and break it down just to eat it in the first place. So,
yeah, and the Aqua Gardens, it says it's super cheap at the Oriental stores. I feed nori to all my shrimp. They go nuts for it. We're going to have to try it on one of the tanks. I mean, might as well. It's not a bad idea. I mean, I don't see anything that could come wrong from it unless, like, there's other chemicals that could be in it. That would be the only worry. But, like, who says anything else that we get isn't got the same problems? But, all right. I think we're caught up. We're good.
Thank you, everybody, for watching and hanging out with us tonight. We'll see you next week. Topic, like usual, we don't know until, but Johnny did give a great one. It might be on wild shrimp. If I can't think of anything better, it's going to be on wild shrimp. So, you want to see about wild shrimp next week or the week after at the best, you know? All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.